Right now, I want to talk to you about how you can invest in property in 2020 and talk to you about the different strategies that you can use to buy property or even just use property that you don't even own to build wealth and to create cash flow. Hi, my name is Jack, and on this channel I document my journey of property investing and personal growth, as well as teaching you guys that no matter your age, your background, your circumstance, your situation, you can use property to generate income and create financial freedom for yourself. If you're new here, it'd be great to have you as part of the family, so make sure that you click that subscribe button. So why should you invest in property? Well, the thing is, if you look at the richest people in the world, a huge amount of them are actually wealthy because of property or real estate. And another reason is because property is an easy way to generate passive income, which, if you don't already know, passive income is essentially where you work once and continue to get paid for it. So most jobs would be what you describe as active income. So, you trade your time for money. So you turn up to work every day, you work 9 to 5 and you get paid for that. Okay, but passive income is when you do something once and you continue to get money in your pocket from that one thing that you did. So property is incredibly passive. Also, it's a great way to generate wealth. Look, I talk about why you should be investing in property in another video, so please just click the little icon up at the top of the screen if you want to watch that video. That is the why, but in this video I want to talk to you about the how. How can you use property to generate income? So right now, I'm just going to quickly run through the different strategies that people use to make money in property. So the first one, okay, is buy to lets. This is about as simple as it gets, really. This is where you would, maybe you have £25,000 and you buy a house, you put down a 25% deposit, you buy a house for £100,000. Okay, and then what you do is you rent that out to a tenant. Maybe you make £500 a month. So maybe you walk away with £250, £300 every single month. That is the most basic form of property investing. You buy a house and you rent it out. It's very, very simple. And to be honest, out of all the different strategies that are on here, especially within residential property, a basic buy-to-let is one, the simplest, the easiest, and probably easiest to make as passive as you'd like. So you could just buy a house and rent it out, but you could rent it out through an estate agent and they would be able to do all the work for you. You just need to make sure that you pay the mortgage and make sure things are up to date and occasionally check in with the agent. But it could be really, really passive. Yes, it may cost a little bit. You can use about 8 to 10% of the income from the property. So let's say it was £500, you'd be paying 50 quid over to an agent, but is that cost worth it to you to make it as passive as possible? That's something for you to decide. So that is a buy-to-let. It's about as simple as it gets. It's really not very complicated at all. But now the second strategy that you can use is what we call HMO. That stands for House of Multiple Occupancy. It's very similar to a buy-to-let, except what you do is you have a house that you then rent out room by room as opposed to the entire property. So say you've got a 5-bedroom house, you get it up to the right regulations, up to the right standards, but what you can do is you could then rent it out room by room. So to give you an example, you might have a house that you could rent out to a family. It's a 5-bed house, you rent it out to a family for £750, or let's just round it up, £800 every single month. And you can make a profit from that. Yes, it can be passive, and that's great. The alternative is that you could turn it into a HMO. Okay, and what you would do is you'd rent out each room individually. So you'd rent out 5 rooms. So rather than renting out the whole property for £800, you could rent out each room for £400. So rather than bringing in £800 every single month, you'd be bringing in £2,000 of revenue every single month. The bills are usually a bit more because in most cases HMO owners will pay for the electricity and gas bills and those kinds of things, but in the long run you will generate so much more money from the money that you can get from HMOs because you're able to do it room by room. The other thing to note with a HMO is that you will usually pay a little bit more in your agency fees, up to kind of 15% for a good HMO lettings agent. Now really that extra 5%, in my opinion, is just worth it. I mean, the money that you would save and from the time that you'd spend on managing those tenants, getting tenants into the property. It's just worth it, and I would definitely recommend doing that if you were looking at getting into buying HMOs. Something to be aware of is there are a lot more regulations around HMO properties. So if you are interested in getting into HMOs, or if you're a buy-to-let landlord and you already own a couple of houses and you're thinking, oh, that sounds great, I'm just going to rent out each room that I have. It doesn't quite work like that. You will need to put in different measures and make sure that it's up to a right standard and a particular comply with particular regulations. But just look online for those kinds of details and you'll be able to find out all the information there. But it's definitely worth doing if you are able to turn your house into a HMO. If that is what you're looking for cash flow, then that just means that per property that you own, you're actually generating more money. The next one is doing a buy, refurbish and refinance. Okay, so what this means is that you could buy a house and you could buy it at a discount, or maybe it's in a really bad condition. So maybe you buy a house for £80,000, you spend £15,000 doing it up, and then it's worth £130,000 because of the value that you've added to that property. Okay, in that scenario, what you could then do is refinance, remortgage that property, get another mortgage on it, and replace the money that you've put in there, pull all the money back out that you've put in, the deposit and also your refurb costs. You'd be able to pull that back out, and you would then be able to essentially have a free property that you could then rent out, and again use in a HMO format, in a buy-to-let format, whatever you'd like to use it for, but you'd be able to pull your money back out and then you're left with a house. So it's a really great strategy. If you've got the money to not only put down the deposit, but also to buy and pay for all the materials and get the work done on the house, and make sure that you are properly refurbing it to get it to a good standard to raise enough value on the property to then remortgage it, refinance it, then it's definitely worth doing. Another strategy that you could use is what we would call flips. This is also very, very common, and people seem to know the basic structure of what this is. It's very similar to a buy, refurbish, refinance, in that what you would do is you would buy a house heavily below market value. You buy it at a discount. You then spend some money to do it up and raise the value, and whatever you make here, you sell the property and you keep the cash. Now, those are the different strategies that you can use to make money from buying property. But here's the thing, you can also use other people's property to generate cash flow. Okay, so whilst I would say that buying property can help you build wealth as well as cash flow, if you are really stuck for money and you've only got, a few £1,000s, then you can actually get into property and use property in a way that you can generate money, generate cash flow every single month. You just don't own the asset. Just before I get into that, please make sure that you smash that subscribe button. It'd be great to have you part of the team, part of the family. If you're finding this information helpful, then I'm going to be making videos every single week. So please do make sure that you subscribe and get stuck in with what is going on here. Okay, so whilst the strategies that I just spoke about required quite a bit of money to get started, bear in mind it doesn't have to be your money, but does require a lot of money to get started, the next few strategies that I want to talk about require little, if not no money at all to get started, to use property to create cash flow and to create income. Now bear in mind, I'm talking about using property, not owning property. If you want to own property, it requires quite a bit of money. If you want to use property to generate cash flow, you don't really need much at all, and I'll explain just now. So there's two different strategies that I want to talk to you about. Okay, so the first one is rent to rent, and the second one is deal packaging, both of which don't really require a lot of money to get started. Deal packaging, if you've got petrol money, you can get started today. But let's start with rent to rent. Okay, so rent to rent, you've got multiple different strategies within the rent-to-rent strategy. Okay, so here's how it would work. Rent-to-rent is where you would rent a property from a landlord, and then you would rent it out in a different format in a way that's creative, that generates money. Okay, so I could rent a property from somebody for £800. I could rent an apartment in Birmingham city centre for £800 off the landlord, okay? And then with the agreement from the landlord, with the mortgage company and all those things, what I can do is then rent that out on a nightly basis and rent it out for £100 a night. Okay, if I get 100% occupancy, for 30 nights, that's £3,000, okay? So I'm paying a landlord £800, but making £3,000. Okay, so can you see how powerful this is? You can use different strategies within the rent-to-rent strategy to generate a lot of cash flow. The downside obviously to this is that you don't own the property itself, and you are spending a bit of money usually decorating it and making it up to scratch and paying for cleaners and things like that. So there are things that you need to put in place. However, if you've got enough time, if you're more time rich than money rich, then this strategy is definitely great for you. The other rent-to-rent strategy, just quickly to cover, is rent-to-rent HMO. We spoke about HMO earlier in the video, but you could rent a property off of a landlord and say that they have a 5-bedroom house. You could then take that, turn it into a HMO and rent it out room by room and make a profit that way. It's really simple, really easy to do actually, but do get educated because there are some things that you will need to do in order to make that work. But it's a great way of generating cash flow if your priority is about getting monthly income as opposed to generating wealth by owning assets. And the second low money down, or to be honest, in this one, I am fairly confident in saying that this is a no money down strategy, because really, you can do this. People are doing this from home at the moment during lockdown. People can do this with just a bit of petrol money. And it's deal packaging, okay? Now, deal packaging, like with everything we're talking about, is a problem-solving business. So what you do is you find an investor who is money rich but time poor. Okay, money rich but time poor. They want to invest in property. They want to put their money somewhere other than the bank because they understand that if your money's in the bank, it's actually shrinking over time. But they want to be able to invest their money in property, but they don't have the time to do it. Maybe they're busy, maybe their job demands a lot of time from them. So they've got a lot of money, but they are time poor. What you then do is you learn, you educate yourself on how to find great property deals, and then you find those deals, partner them with the investor, and because of the value that you're giving that investor, they will then pay you a fee and you then get paid for your service. Now, with the deal sourcing, deal packaging strategy, you can earn, £2,000, £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 every single deal. So really, if you can do one of these deals every single month, that's the equivalent to the average UK salary. So it's a great way of bringing in income. Now, here's the thing, with deal packaging and with rent to rent, they are a little bit more hands-on. I mean, deal packaging definitely is a lot more hands-on. They're harder to systemize. They are a lot more like a business. They're a lot more like running a business, whereby it requires a lot of, especially initially, a lot of work to get things up and running, get things moving, getting the cash flow in. And it's quite hard to systemize and still make a good profit. It's possible, but it is a little bit more tricky. So these things are a lot more like a business as opposed to an investment. You pay your rent and you're able to rent it out in a more creative way and generate cash flow that way. Or you find great deals, give them to investors, provide a valuable service and get paid for it. So that's just a quick summary of the property strategies that are out there. I know that there's quite a lot to choose from and they all sound a little bit exciting. Do I choose cash flow? Do I choose wealth? Do I choose capital appreciation? It's sometimes a bit hard to pick. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my details in the description. So please do get in touch with me if you have any questions about this, about which strategy to choose. There's a saying, if you chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch none. And so if you're going to go after all of these property strategies, you'll probably not be very successful in it. What I'd recommend is setting your goals, aligning your strategy with the goals that you want. If your goal is to become a really successful business person and bring in loads of money every single month, then you could even look at rent to rent. That would work. Or if you actually really wanted to create a passive income where you're not really having to work, you could systemize it so you can go and live on a beach for the rest of your life, then you can do that, but maybe deal sourcing isn't the best strategy for you. So there's lots of different factors into choosing your strategy. Please do get in touch if you have any questions about it or wanted to ask me about it. But the thing I would recommend is set your goals and then choose your strategy that aligns with where you want your life to be. Thank you so much for watching the video. Like I said, please make sure that you subscribe, click the like button as it will really help the algorithm, and I'd love it if more people are able to see these videos. But yeah, subscribe, like, comment any questions that you have. I'd love to see you in another video. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about why you should invest in property, the reasons why, don't forget to check out that video. It'll just appear in the link just at the top there. But yeah, it was so good to have you with me, and I will see you in another video.